Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or rather, good afternoon or even good evening, depends on which place of the earth you are watching us from right now. And welcome in this yet another episode of talking to our professional ambassadors, in which actually means that I need to welcome in the studio. We are not actually sitting next to each other, but I need to welcome Marek Ondracek. Marku, welcome in the studio.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
And Marek, I'm just putting his name down so that you can see it properly. So it's Marek Ondracek. Marek is an amazing wildlife photographer. Oh, landscape. Sorry, Marek. It's just that I was thinking about some animals just an hour ago about some amazing pictures of animals. This is why it's somehow stood in my head. And obviously, you are not wildlife photographer. You are amazing landscape photographer. But let me show you first one thing, and that is Mark's webpage, because there is something interesting. If you come to Marek webpage, which the website is the one you can see down here, markusnakus.cz. Obviously, there is also an English version, which I'm showing you right now. There is not only landscape pictures, there are some amazing architecture and interiors pictures on this webpage. And that is a question from me to you, Mark, because I knew you for a long time, for many years, as an amazing landscape photographer. But actually, just recently, I noticed that you have so many images of architecture, interior design, and all this kind of stuff. Why is it? What happens?
Well, it goes a pretty long time ago. I started with it around 2019, before COVID, and my thought was to landscape. It's very hard to make a living from photographing landscape, although it's not impossible. But still, I thought that it would be nice to. When I moved from, we worked together in Olympus. So when I moved on, I decided to split my activities to landscape, doing photography workshop for people, and interiors and architecture, which I kind of grew fond of it in the end. It's from all the other genres of photography. This is after landscape my really or was even before my most favorite one, and so it is a lot of common actually with photographing landscape, although there are a lot of differences also depending if you capture exterior or interior, of course. And it's much I can say it's much more demanding your photography skills, and you have to be much more like more precise, more detail oriented, and there are so many things you have to really control, lighting and so on. So I really like it as a sort of a challenge after landscape, and each has its specifics, and I like the combination doing both. Landscape is my really my personal favorite, but interest in the architecture is close to it, but I do it mostly as a commission work.
Right. I mean, the truth is that not only your landscape images, which I know for years and years, which have always been amazing, to me, sometimes they look very much amazing as the architecture you are shooting, because you take this kind of not the dream work or dream mind, which you have in your landscape sometimes, which you'll be able to see within a couple of minutes on your images, but you are somehow projecting this into your architecture, and the pictures are just about wonderful to me. And obviously it is, as you said, it's much easier to earn money with taking pictures of architecture than landscape, right?
Yeah.
So this is exactly it. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, Marek webpage. If you want to see more images than what you are going to see today, please visit markusnakus.cz. This is his webpage. And also, I'd like to kindly ask any questions during the streams. If I see some interesting question, obviously I will ask Marek even during the stream. And if not, then at the end of the stream, we will definitely go through all the questions. And Marek, let me now switch to. Oh no! Before I switch to Marek's webpage, I need to, ladies and gentlemen, remind you something, and that is our webpage, our OM System brand webpage, which you all know is explore.omsystem.com. And one thing which I wanted to point out is events, because we do many events worldwide. So if you are looking for a Zoom class, for example, of either our tech experts, of our ambassador, if you are looking for a YouTube live, either with ambassador or with our tech experts or other people, if you are looking for workshops and so on, go to our webpage and this part, which is called Get Inspired. And if you click on events and workshops, there you will see all the events which are planned for the future. Obviously, you can sort by language, which means by your country. And there you will see things happening in UK, in the United States, I mean, everywhere, all around the world, basically. Obviously, now we are in some kind of winter time. So in the winter areas, there are not that many workshops, but there are still some events happening, whether online or offline. But with the spring slowly taking over winter in a couple of weeks or months rather, then there will be more and more events coming. So don't worry, please look at the webpage, go to this part which is called Get Inspired and Events and Workshops. There you will find everything. Okay, that's all about, let's say, my introduction. But Marek, let's talk about your images, because I think this is why we are here and they are much more important than just my talk.
Okay, so shall I start?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I first is good to say that the stream is called like Beauty of Central European Landscape. Actually, it's mostly Czech Republic landscape with some photos from Slovakia. Although Central Europe, of course, it's or not, of course, maybe for all of you, but it's Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Austria. I think we could even include a part of Poland and Germany, simply really central area of Europe. And it's specific both landscape-wise and mentality-wise, and it's a region of itself. And there are quite a lot of differences. The landscape tend to change pretty quickly. We've got vast, huge, spaces in the northern Europe, especially like northern Germany and Amsterdam and so on. It's quite flat and really a lot of space. You can drive many kilometers or miles and see basically similar thing, which has its beauty. And in Czech, I like that really there are not many dramatic views. There are not really high. Big differences of heights. Simply there are no high mountains really, or tall mountains and so on. This is I intentionally took this picture as a first one because I think it kind of represents the landscape of Czech Republic pretty well. In a nutshell, I can see it's quite. It's not really flat, but it's not really tall or dramatic either. So typical is a little bit of wavy hills and some small curves and so on. A lot of forests and typical Baroque church or chapel. This is kind of typical picture of Czech, especially Czech landscape or even Moravian. So the landscape is quite mild, I would say. As I said, no really dramatic sceneries usually. There are a few, but you will see them in a while. But most of the country is really like this kind of mild, just fluently rolling hills, and so sometimes it's kind of hard to really find a spot which would work, which would be boring. Of course, it's easy to have amazing pictures from Dolomites or Patagonia or Iceland. It's kind of easy to take photos there, and they are automatically amazing, I would say. But in Czech landscape, there are some places which are quite easy as well to capture really impressive photos. But usually you have to really try to find really the right spot where you could frame really something that would be interesting, where something would pop up out of the as I said, quite mild landscape. So yeah, this is one of the good examples of it.
Also, one of the great things which I admire or love about Czech Republic is that basically you can take one and the same spot in 4 different yearly seasons, and they will look totally different, which obviously also happens within Europe. But like, for example, Southern Europe, it's much more difficult because it's more hot, more difficult, obviously, north regions of Europe. But as we are really in the middle, then you really have 4 different seasons. So the country definitely changes in 4 different variations. And that's another great, let's say, opportunity for people like Marek, like other landscape photographers, to have an option to actually get the same place, but in 4 different images, in 4 different seasons.
It can look really very different in different seasons. Not just, of course, not just because of sometimes there are leaves in color, sometimes there are plants, sometimes there's snow, but also the sun position. It's good to mention that sun position really does a lot to whether the object is lit perfectly as you need, or the sun is behind, which is not as favorable, and so on. So just to mention when you when you started with it. But anyway, this is another example. I have these 2 examples. I don't usually do this kind of I would say mild photos, but I like them. I must say I like them because they really represent the landscape, the country we're living in, and it has some calming atmosphere, I would say. Really, as I said, no drama, soft and sort of harmonic. You can easily picture yourself having a picnic there or something like that, maybe. So I decided to take it from west to east. So this is the area of it's called Central Bohemian Uplands. So it's not really mountains, as you can see, but there are some small mountains. But as I said, it's one of the more iconic, more dramatic landscapes which you can find in Czech Republic, because as I said, usually it's not that we have mountains, but they are not really tall, and they are quite oblong and so on. No shapes like this and so on. But anyway, back to Central Bohemian Uplands. You can see actually the highest mountain of Central Bohemian Uplands. It's called in Czech it's Milešovka, in German it's Donnersberg. And again, there are you can see the background is a little bit more mountaineer. You can see some hilltops and also triangle shaped, so it makes for a good background. And it's called the Central Bohemian Uplands. Is called the Garden of Czech Republic, and it has a long history. And there were or how it's called, orchard or something like that. Where fruit trees would grow.
Yeah, I
orchard.
know what you mean.
Yeah, I think it's orchard. Yeah, so you can see fragments of what used to be orchards and different lonely fruit trees like apple tree and so on. This is actually the cherry tree, which tend to blossom beautifully no, it's not. I think it's apple tree, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, it's beautiful as a foreground. And when you have luck with the conditions, like there's a storm, you can see the clouds in the sky, so it fits perfectly. It makes kind of a dramatic scene. So yeah, it's one of the examples where the landscape can be a little bit more interesting, a little bit more dramatic. And
Mark,
we
tell me one
continue.
thing before you go ahead with another picture. If you can just go back to one
Yeah.
slide, for example, or even another, it doesn't really matter. One question. Obviously, I know when you are shooting architecture, you would be using, for example, a 740 millimeter lens because it doesn't really round anything. You know, it keeps things and lines perfectly straight. You know, angles are perfect. So the 714 would be great for architecture. Are you using the same lens even for landscape, or do you have another lens like 918 or 825 or even 12, whatever, 40, 12, 100? So which is like the most favorite lens which you would be using most of the time for landscapes? Or
Definitely.
or you even use still lenses? I don't know. I mean,
No still lenses. Just when I sometimes I'm asked to photograph a portrait or wedding, then I will use fast lenses like 45 millimeters and 25 millimeters. But for landscape or even for architecture, my most favorite is 8 to 25 millimeters, definitely. Before that, of course, it was 7 to 14 because we really need. It's not always about having ultra wide lens, ultra wide angle of view. When you do it too often, it gets boring, you know. And social media is really flooded with pictures. I might make them too, of course, but I try to not do always this kind of picture, you know, like something in the foreground, some flower in the foreground, and a tall mountain in the background, extremely wide angle and so on. And when you see all those pictures beside him, you know, it's as I said, it's boring, and it's good to you know, mix try to think out of the box, I would say. Not everything has to be the wide angle, but anyway, it's wide angle lens or ultra wide angle lens has its undoubtable position in landscape photography. And this one, I think it was 714 millimeters. It was before before 8 to 5 millimeters was even introduced. So before that, I used 714, which is absolutely perfect lens. But one thing really I didn't like about it, and it was the impossibility of easily attaching the filters. So it's only thing I was unhappy with, and 8 to 5 millimeters sorted it out immediately. So both lenses are perfect. I would use 714 now for architecture as well. Soon I will be going to Iceland. So for capturing, I don't usually do night photography or star trails or anything, but for this purpose, or for aurora, of course, for the northern lights, it would be a very good choice because of its of the lightness, of the brightness of the lens, which is 2.8 f number. So yeah, I will take it definitely with me to Iceland, but usually I use 8 to 25. As I said, because I can use polarizing filter, which is kind of a necessity if you want to capture landscapes. Polarizer, I have it still attached, I never take it down. There's no reason for me. Why would I take it down? Sometimes they say that when you have a polarizer attached on, it acts as a light ND filter, actually, which is true. One EV or two EVs or something like that. But when you can hold handheld shot 2-4 seconds or something like that, and it's sharp, then you don't really care about having a polarizing filter which acts like as I said, soft or light ND filter. Right. Especially I most of the time I work with high-res shot and having the camera on a tripod, so then you don't care about the time usually anyway.
The high-res shot you just mentioned, Marek, I mean, it's for you who may not know, but obviously I suppose that you all do. The high-res shot is one of the amazing features of our cameras, and basically it actually doubles or quadruples the resolution of the sensor. So the sensor has 20 megapixels, but with high-res shot, which is tripod high-res shot, you can also use handheld high-res shot, but a tripod high-res shot gives you 4 times the resolution. So actually you are getting images which have 80 megapixels resolution. And in the case, like, for example, of this image, you'll be able to see like every single detail. Am I right, Marek? I mean, even the grass, even the leaves, everything on the trees will be perfectly visible, while comparing it with 20 megapixels, obviously these tiny details will not be that much visible.
That's absolutely correct. Only this one is actually single shot. It's one of the few examples when it wasn't a high-res shot, and the reason is very simple. I wanted to capture the trees from a little bit higher point of view. So what I did was very kind of an extreme situation. I folded my tripod, and the extended legs, and I would really lift it as far up I could with the one of the good features of it was, I think, it was EM1 Mark II or the cameras with the possibility of folding, not folding, come on,
turning the LCD,
turning the display, so I could see it from below, at least a bit. And I made like I used actually custom remote shutter, and not remote shutter. I mean timer, custom timer.
So it's the self timer.
Self timer. And set like five pictures and just waited. And one of them was actually quite balanced. So this is it. You don't have to have a drone even. So it's a really extreme situation. I don't usually do it, but I think it fitted nice, and it was one of the examples when I didn't care to not having the high-res shot mode on, because of course it wouldn't be possible to hold it. And back to high-res shot, when you mentioned the resolution, it's incredible. 80 megapixels, it's perfect. But I don't do it that much for the resolution. But when you take the 80 megapixels and change the image size, make it smaller to 20 megapixels, and compare the single shot with the high-res shot made small with to, I don't know the expression. It's crazy. Anyway, I made it small to 20 megapixels, and you can still see the difference. And even when I changed the resolution to really small, like 2000 to 900 or something like that, I could still see the difference. And the reason is that high-res shot, it has much less noise than the single shot. It's a really incredible difference, and it basically acts like a full frame picture. You can even underexpose it, which you would normally, which is not recommended with smaller sensors like Micro Four Thirds. It's better if you have to choose whether to to have highlights preserved or shadows preserved. It's better to have preserved to be on the edge of overexposing. While with full frame, you would be on the edge of underexposing. Is the best setting if you want to capture scene with high dynamic range with one shot.
Right, Mark. Sorry to interrupt. David has a question here. David, it is sorry for the misspelling. We are not native speakers. Sorry for that. It is high res shot, so high resolution shot basically. And the advantage of our cameras in general, basically, it started with Olympus EM5 Mark II a long time ago. And since then, all the 5 series and 1 series cameras have the high resolution mode. And it actually means that, as we described, you can actually take images which have not 20 but 80 megapixels. If it's put on tripod, then it actually means that the camera cannot move. And it's good that even the subject does not move at all. And you, with the new cameras, latest cameras, you can even have the handheld high-res shot, which means that the resolution is not 80, but it's still 50 megapixel resolution. And it actually, you would be capable to actually hold it in your hand, So you can get high-res shot images quite well. And what you were describing, Marek, let me just clarify it. Basically, does it mean that if you take a high-res shot image, for example, 80 megapixel shot, and then you resample it or downsample it from 80 megapixels to 20 megapixel shot, then this 20 megapixel shot, which is downsized from original 80 megapixel high-res, is better quality with more detail than a regular single shot, which also has 20 megapixel?
Yeah, definitely. You can see it. Of course, the resolution would be the same, but still there's a
more detail,
big improvement in details, and it's because it doesn't have that much noise. It's always, even with ISO 200, you can very much see the difference, even in smaller sizes. So that's the main reason why I use high-res shot all the time. Basically, most of the time I use a high-resolution shot. And that's why I have it on camera. Of course, it's acts a little bit better to my view than having it handheld. And there are more reasons why I use tripod basically all the time. But high resolution shot is one of them. And as I said, you can even work with underexposing the photo, and then in the post process you can lift the shadows and you wouldn't get that much noise as if you did it with the single shot.
Okay,
so much more control. So we got technical right at the very, very beginning, basically. So let's get back to the landscape and photos themselves. This is also Central Bohemian Uplands. Wonderful place this is. I like this. This is really a landscape of my heart. Close to it. We always, when I was young, we used to go there with my family and so on. So I know it from really my childhood. And what I like about it, it's a volcanic area. You can see these are former volcanoes, or actually not really volcanoes. These are just the very bottom beginning of much higher, much taller volcanoes which were there, and of course they crumbled down during the million years ago. So these are just really the remains of them, but it gives the landscape really. This is the part of Czech Republic which tends to give you the dramatic scenery. One of the few, very few parts where the landscape isn't that mild, and suddenly there are these dramatic changes. So it's really for a landscape photographer, it's a perfect place, and you can basically climb each hill. They are about 400 to 500 meters tall. I don't know what about feet. I'm not sure about, but I think 1 meter is about 4 feet or something like that.
3 and
Three,
something.
yeah.
Right.
So you can you can count it, but so they are not really. You can see it. It's very easy to get there. You don't have to be an experienced climber, and yet you get this this image, which is very very convenient for a landscape, or especially for a lazy landscape photographer like I am. So it's perfect for me. So this is one example. You get another one, which is just I would say maybe 3 to 5 kilometers away. Actually, see this hill in the background, and yeah, this is the one. So you can take the pictures from different hills to different size and different seasons, depending on the sun position and so on. But you can really move just in the area of like 10 kilometers, or I don't know, 7 miles, and you got it all there, and you can just pick this time this hill, and next time this one, and always you get some amazing views. So I really
But
like
Mark, tell me one thing. I mean, when I look at this image, it's amazingly like dreamy. It's, to me, even the colors. They are wonderful. It's probably sundown. The sun is going down, I assume. So the colors are probably exactly as you saw them when you were there. But I know that basically there's not a single camera which would be able to copy the images of sundown on sunrise 100%. And then you really need to actually fit the original image, original colors. You need to do some post-processing to actually revive the image color back, right? I mean, do you do some kind of post-processing, or what type of post-processing regarding the colors to actually make it so nice and so dreamy? How do you do it?
Post-processing is a really important part of landscape photography. Some people, some beginning photographers sometimes, or just general public, would think that post-processing means manipulating the photos, but it's not. When you see the raw file, it's definitely never what you saw on spot, because the raw tends to be less colorful, less contrast, and it's more more not soft, but a little bit dull.
It's more raw. It's more flat.
Definitely, yeah, more flat. Yeah, that's it. So it's not what you saw. What comes from the camera is not what you saw, and the problematic is even wider or deeper, because 2, 3, 4, how many people would could stand there, and each one of us would see something else. Of course, not completely, but especially regarding colors. Each person has a little bit specific I don't know.
Color viewing, basically.
Yeah. Each one of us see it a little bit differently, the hues and so on. So there could be 3 or 4 photographers, and after they would see each other's photos, they could say, "That's not how I saw it." Yeah, it's very very possible, because each one of us see a little bit differently. Of course, probably it's not like I would see green and you would see blue, but that would be an extreme. But a little bit shifts with in hues. They are always present. So what I tend to do is to when I work with colors, I try to first get as close as I saw it on spot. That's one thing. And sometimes I know it wasn't exactly like this, but I want to really accentuate some part of the shot, or create some kind of a mood. So I work with the color theory, color wheel, and try to match the colors the nature is perfect itself, of course, but it's you have different perception when you're on spot, when you're actually there, and when you see the picture, it's not the same. So I try to make the picture a little bit more stand out, or as I said, a little bit more accentuate some parts of it, and so on. So I work locally with colors and with hues, so it would really make kind of a harmonic picture.
Marek, I have one wonderful question, because I know we have been discussing this together for some time already. Quill, thank you for the question. And the question is, how or when do you decide if you will use HDR, high dynamic range, or high res shot for this type of lovely landscape? As I understand it, you cannot use both at the same time. So basically, either HDR or exposure bracketing is the same thing. So how do you do this kind of combination, exposure bracketing and high res shot, if you do it? How you do it?
That's a very good question. Yeah, that's true. That's one thing I would really like OMSYSTEM to include in the next cameras, the possibility of using exposure bracketing with high res shot, because it's not possible now, but it's not really any problem. It would be nice to have it, but it's not a big problem. What I do is you can either use manual mode or aperture priority. And I use manual mode. I'm got used to it. You don't have to be really fast and adapt quickly to changing conditions in the landscape. So you can easily have manual mode and just sometimes move with the time, or even aperture if you want. But anyway, I do it like this. I have it my camera on like this picture exactly. When you shoot against the sun, you basically always have to the dynamic range is so high that you really need to have more photos, more exposures, so you can blend it together. And I will always do high res shot, but I will manually with my back wheel change the shutter speed, and I go always one EV step, which means 3 times to the right or the left or whatever. I tend to start with +2, then go +1. You can see, of course, I move with the time, but you have the scale down, which shows you where you are exposure-wise. So I move the time until I see +2, then I go to +1, 0, -1, -2, or even farther away, just because of the sun and the area, the brightest area of the picture. Sometimes I go in -3, -4, depending on the situation. But always with high res shot and this manual. But when you get a grip on it, it's quite easy. Process. I have the remote shutter, so I just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and it's like it's like 3-4 seconds or something like that. I don't miss anything with especially the remote shutter, so it's not a problem.
You're absolutely right that we have been discussing this, and it will be a great feature. On the other hand, I'm not sure how much actually the internal buffer, is dependent. Because obviously, if you want to shoot high res shot, we know that the high res shot image itself is much bigger than a standard single shot, right? And if you want, for example, to shoot this in HDR mode, not in bracketing, which you are using, but in HDR mode, it would actually mean that all these high res shot images would need to be, let's say, buried for a while in the buffer, which means that the buffer size would need to be enormous. And then it would somehow compound these images together. So it might be, I'm not sure. I'm not, let's say, like the R&D personality who knows how the buffer size how it actually works properly. But the truth is that I think it really very much depends on the buffer size. So that is the reason, if I'm answering to your question, Quill, why it actually cannot be implemented together. Maybe sometime future when we have much bigger buffer or and so on. Maybe it will be possible, but not at the moment.
But you're actually talking about blending the shots
blending
in
images
the camera,
together in the camera. Yeah,
which I would never do, of course.
Oh, really? Okay.
It doesn't work really good in any camera. I think cell phones are better in blending. Actually, cameras are not for making it in camera. Cameras are for I use my camera to get as many information from the spot as possible, which means different exposures and even different moments, so I could pick the one I like, or even blend them together and so on. So it's a good point, actually. I wanted to say that what I do with the photos, I've got let's say 5 or 6 or 7 exposures, and then I would blend them, not in any software. I mean, not automatically, but it's called exposure fusion, which I do in Photoshop using masks and manual blending, and it's really a much different result than if you would use any automatic software with just sliders and so on.
Which means that you are too advanced for us, or for me at least.
Perhaps,
I would probably use Photoshop or Lightroom as well, but automatically.
Yeah, but it's easy when you, as I said, when you get a grip on it, it's quite fast process. But anyway, yeah, this is again Czech center Bohemian Uplands, different part. The one you saw, the ones you saw before, they're the western part. This is the eastern part. Each one has different, a little bit different atmosphere. This is more rocky, as you can see, more more hills and more forests. But this is actually interesting because my intention was to capture it, not portrait, but landscape oriented. And I had my spot, which I was prepared to get my tripod on and so on, and suddenly another photographer appeared and just said hi and put his tripod right there, and I was well, hi, but that's where I wanted to stay. But first I thought, oh, anyway, I will get right beside him and whatever. And then I decided, no, let's take it as a challenge and as a possibility to do something new, do it differently. And actually, I could just thank him, because sometimes these situations are quite nice. It really makes you to, as I said before, think out of the box, and don't use the ordinary, or like something you would use all the time, and something this too prepared and so on. This was an improvisation, and I think it got it ended up much better than my original intention. So that's what I would say is interesting about the photo, especially.
Really nice.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy. This was really a tough one.
Sorry, Mark, but this reminds me of Hobbit Garden. Is this
Hobbit Garden? Yeah.
Hobbit Garden style, or?
I don't know. It's quite an extreme situation. It's quite a steep. No, it's not even hill. It's really rock, really high rock. I was standing on, sort of balancing right above the the gorge behind me. So it was kind of an extreme place to have a garden. But this is kind of a picture you would make, or you can see from different photographers from Dolomites and Patagonia, and so sort of this kind, as I said, extreme wildlands, some flower or plant in the foreground and so on. Of course, those mountains are definitely not very tall, like Dolomites and so on. But yeah, I was thinking I could maybe try to do this kind of a shot from much, as I said, much milder landscape. This is one of the few spots where it's possible to do something like this, and it was really hard to really get the frame. As I said, I was balancing right on the edge, and even the post process was not really easy because there's simply so much going on in the photo. You've got a rich foreground, dramatic sky, those branches all around, and so on. The river. There's so many things. So I really I had to do this photo, the post process 3 times before I got. I'm still not sure if it's the final version actually, but it took me more attempts to really get there, and I had to make it more simple each time because there are simply too many things to that's called for attention. So yeah, this is the simplest one I got.
But Marek, one question to this, because it really looks like even the closest subjects, like the leaves here in front, at the very beginning, even the hills at the very end, everything is perfectly sharp, or it looks, at least from the image to me. We always said, obviously, during macro photography and so on, you usually use focus stacking to actually get bigger depth of field. But we also say that we use it also in architecture and landscape type of photography to actually do more shots, so that we don't have to use the apertures like f22 or f16, and so on. How do you do it? I know that there are different types of landscape photographers. Some do just single shot and somehow it works. Some do maybe 2 or 3 shots with different, let's say, focusing levels or planes, and then they combine it together. How do you do it?
I try to not draw my attention to the camera too much. I would say not to aim or not to not to work with the camera more than is necessary, I would say.
Okay.
Anyway, I still do high-res shot and exposure bracketing. So there are anyway a lot of things I do or I have to do. But I'm sort of a minimalist. I try to be sort of a minimalist photographer. So when you know where to focus, you don't even have to use focus bracketing or stacking for this kind of shots.
Okay.
It always means that you have to sacrifice something, and there's always a spot in the picture where if you focus there, you have the most of the picture in focus. It's called hyperfocal distance, I think, in English, and simply it means when you focus there, usually it's the lower third of the picture. It means closer to you than further away. Always focus closer to you than further away, because even not mention the hyperfocal distance. Simply all the small tiny details are in the foreground. All those branches and flowers, the grass and everything, the structure on rocks. All those small, really, I would say, there's even some tiny details are in the foreground. In the background, on the horizon, what do you have on the horizon? There are just silhouettes, basically, really large details, or even just silhouettes. Not really much needed to focus. Need focusing. So. If you focus on your foreground, of course, I usually do like 2 or 3 photos and see on the display how it looks. Try to really pinpoint the right spot where to focus. So I would have most of the foreground in sharp and most of the central area in focus, but I really don't care much about the horizon. It can be a little bit out of focus, no problem. It probably is here, and it's so far away, and there's no reason to really try to have it or try and focus. And the same applies to the really very bottom part of the photo, because you can see there's the vignette. I think it's called. It's in English. So there are not you cannot see much details there. Anyway, I try to most of the times I try to work with vignette, different intensities, of course, but I try to sort of hide the most bottom part of the picture, so it would your attention would go more to the central area where something interesting happens.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how I do it. Still Central Bohemian Uplands. We have to fast forward a little bit, but I like this one. Without those dancing flowers, it will be pretty ordinary picture. And it actually was my intention. My intention was to capture a pretty ordinary picture.
So I'm trying to cover the flowers.
Yeah.
Looking at the upper part, and I still like the image, even without the flowers.
Yes, it's quite nice. Still those hills you saw before, springtime and so on. But it would be wouldn't be any special. But I think it is quite special now, and it wasn't my intention. I just did a lot of pictures of flowers moving in the wind in different positions and so on, and I decided to blend actually some parts which were sharp with faster shutter speed, and some parts with slowest shutter speed, and I sort of blended it together. It was kind of a hard work in post process, but I like the result. It gives it a little bit something special. It's more spicy.
But it's amazing.
Yeah, still.
Do you remember what was the shutter speed then?
Not really, because there are many shutter speeds. Actually, I tried different shutter speeds, and this is a blending of I don't know, 4 to 5 photos maybe with different shutter speeds actually. Okay. I can't tell really. Yeah, it's still the same picture. There's not really nothing special to give me the reason to stop here. So let's move on. Yeah, this is a little bit more interesting. Finally, we get to Bohemian Switzerland. This is on the border between Czech Republic and Germany. This is Saxon Switzerland in German part, and Bohemian Switzerland in the Czech part. And this is Pravčická Gate, or Prebistor, I think it's in German. And it's an arch, like in the United States. There's arches, national park, and this I think this is the only as big arch made of sandstone in the whole Europe, and I think the closest one similar is really in the United States. It's very, very special, and it's a symbol of. This is a national park. It's Bohemian Switzerland National Park, and it's really the icon. They have it in their logo, and very, very symbol of this area. And you could saw it in Chronicles of Narnia. Actually, the Chronicles of Narnia were shot in this area in the winter. And you can see when you see the first movie, there are a lot of shots like flying over this gate, this arch, and so on. So it could be known too from this movie, or maybe even some others. And of course, it's a tourist spot. There's a restaurant even right below the arch. You actually slept there, I think. You told me.
We were there. I mean, during one of the workshops a long time ago. It was like maybe 8-10 years ago, right? But it's honest to say that basically, was it last year or 2 years ago when all this area burned down? There was a forest fire, unfortunately, but it's getting better now. The nature always finds its way, so now it's getting nicer.
I think it actually helped the area, and what you can see is one of the first occasions where people were let there after the wildfire. It's this shot was made 1 week after they opened the trails, so you could hike there. So we were one of the first visitors after a huge wildfire, and you can see actually when you look through the arch, you can see black ground with some like matches, tree trunks, which remain there. So it made for a very interesting view actually, and now it's all green. 2 years forward, and it's all green. There are birches everywhere, and the forest is. It's amazing to see it how quickly it renews.
Recovers.
Yeah. Amazing. This is finally German part. Finally, we get a little bit behind the border, at least. This is Saxon, Switzerland, and each part has its specifics, but basically it's all sandstone, huge rock cities of sandstones, and these amazing views. There's a Elbe River, which made it the different canyons, and as I said, for Czech this is actually German, for Czech landscape, as I said, which is quite mild. These are very unusual sites, not that much unusual actually, but one of the most dramatic, most impressive parts of the country. Or this is a little bit behind the border anyway. This is
Mark, sorry, Mark, can you please just go one slide back? This one. Like my first impression when I see images like this is, oh, it's too colorful. It could not be like that in reality. But obviously, my experience also is that the reality is even more colorful. So it's actually very difficult for the photographer, when you are not doing the editing directly on the spot, to actually come back home, put it in the computer, and then try to, let's say, recover the colors as you saw them when you were there taking the picture. But really, this weekend, actually, I was up in the mountains, lots of snow everywhere, and we were waiting for the sundown. And really, the white, perfectly white snow got all orange. And it was really orange, like from the fruit orange, it really had the same color. And when I took the picture, I was like, okay, this is amazing, but nobody would believe me that this was really orange. But really, the eyes see it. So the nature, what I want to say is that nature is really colorful, and when we see images like this, it simply is like it was, or sometimes it's even not really as nice as it was in reality.
Yeah. Exactly. And take how many people actually wake up to catch the sunrise, or stay there to catch the sunset, because it would mean they will have to go back to their cars in the dark and so on. So absolutely most of the people would see the landscape and the world in the broad daylight, basically. Maybe golden hour, but not much far away. Not really the really sunset or sunrise. So they don't see those colors really. So then they don't believe it. But try to, as you said, even if you don't have a camera with you, you can train your sight, your vision, and try sometime to focus when you see the sunset, sunrise, and these colorful times. Try to aim on different spots. What does the grass do? What does the snow do? And you can then you would see those colors are absolutely incredible and out of this world sometimes. So yeah, it is very rich. And as I said, each one of us would see it differently. But yeah, it's the nature is full of incredible colors, but just in certain times of the day.
Sure.
And yeah, this is another sunrise very close to the area of the picture before. This is Bastei in Saxon, Switzerland. You can see in the Königstein fortress. There are the plateaus, I think it's called. Those mountains with the flat tops. And one of them is a Königstein fortress, quite famous. And you can see in the bridge and in those rocks. It's Bastei location, very 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 famous. There are photographers all around. It's very hard to find a spot when you're there, especially in the autumn sunrises where mists are probable. It's very hard to find your spot, but when you do, it's you will be rewarded really. So
Perfect.
we're slowly leaving finally the Bohemian Switzerland, and yeah, I don't have. I would say I don't have much to say about it. This is simply very interesting, dramatic situation, but nothing really special to say about it. Just to picture it in different season to see how it looks.
But it definitely is, Mark, one of the images which I would, for example, print in a huge scale and put it on the wall, for example. Kind of winter dramatic, there is this warm coming from the sun. It's like fire somewhere there. And on the other hand, there is this wintry, dark, cold parts in the same image. Nice, very nice to me.
It was actually the very very nice moment because you don't get much solitude in the Czech landscape. It's quite densely populated. There are villages all around. We don't have much. We don't have any vast lands or really wilderness. Not much wilderness. This is one of the few examples. But anyway, there are villages behind those hills. And we were with my friends. We were there all alone and absolutely quiet. No person inside. No house inside, which is very very rare in Czech landscape. So it was like we would be somewhere in Canada or something like that. It was really amazing amazing situation. Still Bohemian Switzerland. This is a Křenice Creek, and very nice spot. It changed a bit. This picture is from 2021, I think, and they made some deforestation, so a lot of those trees actually fell down, but still there are a few. And the creek, it's interesting how creeks, especially mountain creeks, tend to change during the time, because sometimes there's a flood and the rocks would be moved very much, and so the place would look differently each year or each season even. So it's nice to go back now and then, and each time we would have a little different picture.
And I assume that you would be using a live ND filter for the creek to be like blurred slightly, right?
Yeah. Since OM1, I use it regularly when I shoot water or cloud, and I often combine it. Not here, but when I shoot clouds, when I want to have movement in the sky, you have to have much longer times, much slower shutter speed. So I often combine it with usual ND filter, live ND filter, and glass ND filter attached. So I would get 60 seconds easily, like 10 EV ND filter with 64 or even 128 live ND filter, and it gets you there. But of course, for this situation, 2 seconds are plenty. So sometimes even when it's in the forest, you don't even have to use a live ND filter because there are not much light coming in. And sometimes I would use some softer live ND filter and combine it with higher shot, of course. This was made. This is all those static things, rocks and everything except for water is higher shot. And just for water, I used live ND filter and just manually blend it using masking in Photoshop. So only the water is live ND filter, so I wouldn't lose the advantages of higher shot. That's how I do.
Right. Nice.
That's what I recommend. So this is one shot, and this is sort of specific. Thomas made me to show you this one as well, because I've got a kind of a side project beside my landscape photography, which combines landscape photography and fantasy genre, because I grew up on Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons and PC games, and so RPG PC games and so on. So I'm really still huge fan of those, and so I decided to actually. Lord of the Rings, especially the movie. I like both books and movie, and especially the movie and those sceneries from New Zealand, which is still at the very top of my bucket list, where I would like to go there one day. When I saw those sceneries of New Zealand, I think it had some affection on me, and it could be one of the reasons why I decided to start with landscape photography. I think from the very beginning I tended to, search for seek those locations that would transfer me to another world, to kind of a fantasy world, I would say. And this is explicit result of. I decided to combine those two things together. So this is me actually, and I did this photo with my friend Milan Strakota. I did it all myself. He just pressed the shutter in the right time, and I do a lot of post processing on it. It looked pretty much different. There was no mist actually, and some parts of my clothing weren't there even. So the sword is real, but in this project I go much farther with post-processing than I would do in landscape photography. I don't mind making sometimes making quite a big big impact, not impact, changes, yeah. In my landscape photos I try to not really manipulate the landscape itself. I don't do it really. Sometimes most extreme situation would be replacing the sky. I try not to do it, but if everything else works and this is the only thing that would ruin the photo, and especially if it's from the country I would visit just maybe a couple of times in my life, I would perhaps replace the sky or something like that. But I really try not to do it to keep more of authenticity. But this is something completely different. This is really about fantasy world, so there's no limit, I would say. But anyway, no AI involved. This was long before AI came in, and I will not use it anyway. AI is too cheap. It's so easy to you write a prompt and you got it there. There's no what. Why even bother? Why would we bother if it was that easy? So this is completely manual work and a lot of work actually. So yeah, I think this is one of my best shots ever. still.
And if you guys want to see more images from this project, I will just show it to you. Just go to Marek's webpage, go to the gallery, and go to Project Rover, and you will see these images which I'm showing right now. So there's 8 images of the Project Rover done, and I think they are all amazing. Good. Okay,
It's actually kind of a hibernation now. It's a long time since I did the last photo, but I really want to get back to it soon.
Nice.
So, still Bohemian Switzerland. This is a place actually where you cannot get, and it will be impossible to get there for a couple of years, probably due to the wildfire. It wasn't burning in here. It's very wet in there actually, but it's a deep gorge, and the fire went on the top of it, and so there are a lot of dead trees and unstable stones and so on. So it's very, very dangerous. So we'll see, 2 or 3 years maybe, and perhaps we will get there again. It's a big shame because this spot is really amazing, nice white water, just so much so it would be visible, but not too much, not to really cover the photo in white, perfectly shaped, and it's like S curve and so on. So,
Mark, there is a question basically about Live ND, which was obviously used in this image as well from Kill. With the Live ND filter, do you have to use a different setting for the type of light, which is basically the white balance, whether you are using outdoor, daylight, cloudy, etc.? Does it cause a color cast if you do not set the right type of light setting? But you are shooting in RAW, right? You're not shooting JPEG all the time.
Exactly. So
the white balance doesn't matter.
There's no reason why would it have a color cast, because it's it just makes when you've got ND, let's say 32, it would make 32 photos and blend them together. That's what happens. That's why only the most advanced cameras like OM1 Mark II have ND 128 because their buffer is bigger, so it can really make 128 photos very quickly and blend them together. So there's no reason there's nothing that would affect the color cast. That would happen with the usual ND filter. When you have the glass ND filter, then that is the case, and I think there's always some color cast with usual ND filters. The more expensive ones, more quality ones, have really. I use for example, Big Stopper with Lee system, and it is very minimum of color cast, but still there is some, especially to the green colors tends to go, but it's very, very easy to correct it in post process, especially when you shoot raw. The white balance is really not a problem because you can always change it in the post process without losing any quality, any information.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
So. Yeah, this is a different place. It's much closer to where I live. Actually, this is Berounka River, and it's Devil's Rock. In Czech Republic, there are so many Devil's Rocks and Hell Valleys and so on. I don't know about different kind of different parts of the world, but you can see as I said, the mild landscape usually. No, just fields and some way hills, small and so on. And now suddenly this really like teeth-like shapes of rocks and so on. So I can see that it really the imaginations of people work a lot there. You can see this. This is kind of a dramatic view. So as I said, there are not that many. The kind of dramatic views and these more Czech Republic is very much about sandstones, which are quite oblong, like not really sharp, and there's where there's a sharp rock. It often is called like Devil's Rock or something like that. But anyway, nice place. I really like the atmosphere of it, and this is nothing really special golden hour, but yeah, it works for me. And the square format 1:1 works for me as well. I use it more and more, and I like it more and more. I would say often, many times. You can see that when you use wide landscape orientation, there are just so many, not that many. There's a huge space on the left side and on the right side where nothing is really happening. It's not extra interesting. Usually the most important things happen in the center part of the photo. So very often, or not very often, but yeah, kind of often, it helps to really crop it to 1:1, and you get rid of those empty areas. It would same apply to the portrait format. Then if I used portrait, then I would get probably too much of empty space on the bottom, and on the top a lot of clear sky and so on. So again, the cropping to 1:1 would really help.
Maybe we should mention one thing, and that is that if you want to really shoot 1:1, so a square image, it might help you to actually set this shape of the picture in the camera, because you know that normally it's 4:3, but you can switch it to 3:2, 16:9, but also 1:1, so it will be a square, which does not mean that you would not get the full data 4:3, which is the shape of the image if you are shooting raw, because in raw data, in raw shooting, you are still getting 4:3. But it's good for composition. So if you are there in the country, you set up the 1:1, so the square image, you see it in the viewfinder, you see it on the LCD, and it's easier for you to find the right image. Obviously, if you still want to get some data which are normally hidden by this black area on the right side or left side, you would be able to retrieve it from the raw image. But for the composition moment, it's better to put it into the final shape of the image which you are actually aiming to.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I usually work with 4:3 or 3:2, but then I decide when I see it really on a big screen. Sometimes I decide it would be better to crop it, but sometimes I see it right on spot. This would be perfect square format, and then I would really change the ratio in the live super control panel under OK, and so I would see really exactly what would the intended photo would look like. So anyway, back to Lord of the Rings. This is my tribute to Lord of the Rings. As I said, I was very, very influenced by it, even for my landscape photography. And this is very fresh photo, or combination of very old photo. This is actually a remake of a photo which I took in 2016, I think, 17 maybe, 16 actually. So quite a long time. And recently I decided to, this is my second side project, combining landscape photography and a fantasy world. This time it's more about post-processing. I took, so far I've got 3 of them, photos, older photos, and I turned them to this kind of fantasy picture. This is really directly Lord of the Rings. Usually, I want to just work with general fantasy theme. No exact theme. Just really general fantasy or fairy tale, whatever. But this is kind of a tribute to Lord of the Rings. So you can see 3 boats in the water. There's a Nazgul on his flying beast over there. And if you look very very deep in the photo, you would see the Argonauts. Even they are very much. That was my intention, not to have them really stand out. I wanted them to be a little bit covered in the mist. So on the right side, if you look close, then you will see them. So yeah, there's some added mist. Also, colors are very much changed comparing to the original photo. But anyway, most of it is true. This is like Horseshoe Bend in Arizona. I've been there too, and it's an amazing place. So this is Trek Horseshoe Bend. We don't get many like sceneries like this, but there are a few, and this is the most iconic. True to say, it's a sort of a Instagram spot as well, and it's very much affected by the crowds, flowing there to make selfies or whatever, and not all of them are really landscape photographers who I think tend to act, to try to be careful, and we admire the nature and try not to harm it in any way. So this place is actually visited with, by people who are not like that. So there are garbages sometimes, and I don't like to see it, but
Mark, this is what Instagram did to so many beautiful, amazing, and previously quiet places in the world.
Exactly.
Because once it becomes viral, then everybody goes there, takes pictures there. Which I mean, I have nothing against it, but then if it's like too crowded, then the nature suffers.
Too much is too much, simply, and it's always the case with places that are easily reachable. You can drive by car or almost right next to it, and so on. Then it attracts different kind of people. So this is one of the places that suffers quite from it. Another sandstone. This is not Czech or Saxon Switzerland. This is Prachovské rocks, it's called. It's much more eastern part of Czech part of Bohemia. So we're getting closer to Moravia finally. And like this one, nice light I had there, nice conditions. Although it wasn't really easy to compose it, but I think it ended up quite well. You can see far away in the distance there's a Troské castle. In English it would be ruins. It's called ruins simply. And even Ještěd mountain, far away. It's really very, very far away. It's not much visible, but like this, the atmosphere of it, the light was very favorable, I would say. So kind of a impressive yet harmonic, I would say.
Basically, if I had to take one rule from your images we have seen so far, then the rule is don't shoot landscape throughout the day. Go either at sunset or sunrise.
It's general rule, actually. But truth is that you can make very beautiful pictures even during the day, during the overcast day, during the sunny broad light day. So it's not true that you wouldn't make a beautiful picture during the day, but of course golden hour around the sunset or sunrise is always the best. The sun is low, so light is not that hard. It's very soft, colorful, so it's easier to work with it, and it makes for more simply more interesting images usually. But this is overcast, when it's overcast, it's always best to go to the forest, and especially when there's a water, some creek or waterfalls. That's perfect combination, and you can get it each, no matter the time. So this is quite fresh. It's from last autumn in the Jezera Mountains. This was actually my on a second time there. It's still quite unknown area for me there. So it's very popular these days among especially Czech landscape photographers. So of course I plan to visit it much more often. But yeah, this was one of my first actually scouting basically in the location, and I found this very incredible view. I was actually balancing on the really tip of on the very top of the huge rock, as you can see in the picture, and right underneath me there was this waterfall, and I was really, it was really on the very edge. It was a very it wouldn't be a long fall, but a very unpleasant fall. So it was a sort of a situation. Sometimes if you want to have interesting picture, you have to really get to the places that are not exactly safe, or not even, sometimes not even legal, maybe. Like national parks or something like that. I try to not to go to the calm zones, the fruit zones of national parks. I usually don't do it. Especially when I know Bohemian Switzerland, Saxon Switzerland, it's very much about falcons, very much about birds. So in the spring, it's really no go. But in the autumn, it's not that important to simply. There are not that many animals you would interrupt and so on. So sometimes I would go on the a little bit to do more calm zones, but tend not to do it and have the give the nature peace it deserves.
Sure.
So this is Moravian Tuscany. Finally, we get to Moravia. Moravian Tuscany, it's a very famous location worldwide, actually. Photos from this area, not mine, but photos of different photographers from this area tend to win international competitions, because the landscape is very interesting, very uncommon in a way. There are not many places on the earth with this kind of a landscape. Obviously, it's in Tuscany, in Italy, in Oregon, I think, in the US, maybe some parts of the different countries as well. But this is there are, I think, 3 main locations of these vast rolling fields. And as I said, somewhere in Oregon, Italy, and Moravian Tuscany. That's why it's called Tuscany. It's southern part of Moravia, and it's good to say. It's needed. I like to say simply when I go there with my workshops to people that the landscape is very incredible for landscape photography, but also it's basically a destroyed landscape due to collectivization, we call it, during the communist era. The fields were joined together and made for really vast land, and it ended up eroding very much, so the landscape sort of suffers from it, but there are also there's a light in the end of the tunnel. There are a lot of people who try to save it, so there are people who plant trees there, make bio corridors with orchards and so on. So the landscape is each year, I would say, is richer and richer. Each time I get there again in the spring, I see new trees over there, new alleyways over there. So it's much more interesting year by year, I would say. But anyway, what is so attractive, so different is sort of a vastness. It's not that much in this picture, but this is one of the most photographed places in there. This chapel of Saint Barbara with I think chestnut trees and those rolling fields behind it. But there's also this location. It's a little bit further away, actually. It's still counted as a part of Moravian Tuscany, but it's almost 1 hour drive. But still, you get this kind of landscape. This is not that vast. There are much more trees, even a village and some forest and so on. So it's a little bit more fragmented, but still you can see there are those hills blending together and so on, making interesting diagonals. And of course, there are windmills because it's very open area, very not very, but a little bit uncommon for a lot of parts of Czech Republic. This is very kind of flat, but yet, as I said, those rolling hills are there, and it's very open. So it's very windy when we're there. Sometimes it's so windy we really have difficulties to actually hold our tripods on spot. So yeah, it's sometimes quite hard to get the shot when you've got a telephoto lens. It's important to say. All those pictures from Moravian Tuscany, or most of them, are made with telephoto lens. Most of them, mine pictures, are with 40 to 150 millimeters f2.8, which is absolutely perfect lens, usually used for wildlife photography. But as I said before, it's not always about wide lenses, wide shots. This kind of landscape really calls for using the telephoto lenses and work with layers. So when you got interesting foreground and dramatic landscapes and differences in heights of different objects, then you would use wide shot. But this kind of landscape really is perfect for working with layers. And if you want to work with layers, then you will use telephoto lens. Of course, it's important to be on right spot, so the layers would really come up and stand out on the picture. But yeah, this is one of the examples. And there are a couple of windmills. This one is one of the most famous, and you can get a lot of shots from all around the area, from quite far away. There's a spot where even 300 millimeters, which means 600 millimeters on full frame, would not be enough. We were there together, if you remember, and we used even a 1.4 teleconverter to get the framing we really wanted. So we were on 840 millimeters. Yeah.
So you think that even 150 to 400, our wide pro lens, which is normally being used for birding and wildlife, could be used for these type of images?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. 40 to 450 with teleconverter, or even 100 to 40, no problem, definitely. Yeah, this is one of the nice examples. You can work with sort of an abstract view, and I think these are. I don't usually send my photos to competitions because they are often limited to, the photos had to be captured that year, and usually it takes me about 1 year before I get to those pictures and actually process them. So it's crazy. I've got so many pictures waiting for me. There's not enough time, so it's not rare that I would take a picture, capture a photo in autumn. Next autumn, I would release it maybe. So okay. That's why I don't usually don't send pictures to the competitions. But I think this is kind of a picture that would be appreciated in different competitions. And if you see those competitions, you can often see those kind of abstract images. usually we work with getting rid of the horizon. We don't care about the sky usually. What we want is to really the intention is to get rid of the how do you call it, the comparison. You don't get the perception of the space really. You don't know how big those hills are.
Right.
It's a sort of an optical illusion sometimes, using very long telephoto lens and really capture just a small part of the scenery. So you easily get a little bit confused, even maybe, but that's the point.
And basically, the lines which we see in the green, these are the lines from the wheels from the tractor, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah. And this is another example. So this is that's the point. You would cut the field right below the horizon.
Okay.
And when you zoom really in very extensively, then you'll get, actually when you're standing there, you can see it. Yeah, you can see there are some rolling hills, but it doesn't look like this really. It's to your point of view, which is around like they say it's somewhere between 35 millimeters and 50 millimeters is the point of view, not counting peripheral vision and of course, but the way we see the details and so on. So it's so different. You can see the vast land. You can see quite far away, and of course there are some rolling hills. But only after you zoom in and really just capture the small part of it, then suddenly it looks like a tsunami. Really, like a huge wave. It looks like there's a mountain, and it's a nice optical play, which you don't even have to fake it in post process or anything. No, just the physics works, and the optical performance of the lens does it.
I had this recently. I had this YouTube interview with yet another ambassador who is also a landscape photographer, and he said that we should get used to one thing. Just take a roll of toilet paper, but just take the middle part, the hard part of it, and use it as a kind of viewfinder for your eye, and look at the nature around you through this very narrowed angle, basically. And if you see something, if you spot something that's nice, then use the telelens, because that it would make you discover. It's just a very, very easy way of how to look differently on the nature, not only wide angle but also a very narrow angle. So yeah, looking like through the keyhole, basically.
Yeah. That's very nice advice. Yeah, that's I would say it as well. And this is a more of an exception from the Moravian Tuscany. While in the spring, especially, or even in autumn, we would most of the time, most of the photographers would use telephoto lenses. As I said before, you can capture interesting images during the broad daylight, but you really need some specific conditions and specific landscape for it. I think this is one of the examples. It's not that much impressive. It's not any definitely not one of my best photos, but I still like it kind of a lot. It has this kind of summer or end of spring, beginning of summer atmosphere. Colorful, summer vibes, colorful, sort of optimistic, so it has its position in landscape photography as well. I don't do it too often, but in Moravian Tuscany, it's not really not hard, or not definitely prohibited to capture nice photos in broad daylight. It's not definitely just about sunset, sunrises, or golden hours, especially when you get sky like this. That's very important. The combination of this it's some kind of wheat, but I don't know really the English expression. There's a wheat and how rose flowers are called. Do you know, Thomas?
I will find out. I will find out for you. Don't worry.
It's a poppy. I think it's poppy. I'm not sure about if it's the correct correct name, but yeah, poppy. So the combination is it makes itself for a impressionist picture like Van Gogh or something like that. It's really itself tends to get this kind of impression. So that's what really attracted me.
It should be field poppy. Field poppy. If
Field poppy,
it's the expression, I hope so.
That was basically right. So that's one thing. Down below, we've got interesting images. Image of the combination of this kind of wheat and poppy, and the sky is quite interesting as well. Nice clouds like sheeps and so on, cumulus clouds, and this is a combination that really works. And also we often worked with when we shoot during the day there. We work with this kind of conditions to sort of simulate or how to say it, maybe let me say it a different way. When the sun is down during the sunset, sunrise, the golden hour, one thing it does is, especially when you shoot perpendicularly to it, then it makes long shadows, and each hill would have the side which is lit by the sun and the shadow side, and it makes great contrast in the landscape, and it really gives it shape. The play of shadow and light, it really gives objects their actual shape. So that's why we so many times we would go for the photographing the sunsets and sunrises and golden hours, but you can have this kind of play of shadow and light when you get the sky like this, and it's made by clouds covering the sun. So sometimes you can see the mosaic of shadows and sunlit places, and it's sort of a it acts like almost like the situation when the sun is down near the horizon.
Yeah, Mark, I think we can make a very easy comparison, because when you are talking about the sun going under very, let's say, steep angle when it's sundown or sunrise, the very easy comparison, and I think everybody would know how that works, is imagine you are taking a picture of a muscly bodybuilder. If you take a direct light on him from the front, then basically almost no muscles would be seen. But if you put the light from the side, whether right side, left side, doesn't really matter, then every single muscle will pop up immediately. So yeah. It's the same. It works exactly the same with the nature, with the country, as it's curving around. So depending on the, let's say, angle of the light, you will be getting, let's say, better, nicer looking images or not.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. And finally, we got to Slovakia. This is Strechno Castle, and one of my favorite pictures, actually. It was sort of a surprise, first negative, then positive, because when we get there, we were hoping for this kind of mist, but it was actually very foggy, and the visibility was about maybe 3 meters. We wouldn't see 3 or 5 meters in front of us. Basically, we saw nothing, just the river below us, and that was all. So we decided to go to another castle, which we knew it wasn't photogenic, really. It wasn't for photography. It was just as a tourist. We just didn't care. We thought, we'll see how it turned out, and maybe we will make some photos over there actually, but we'll see. So we're there. No photos really. It wasn't that impressive, but when we were there, we saw that the fog is actually dissolving and turns into this misty landscape. So we quickly got to our car. It was around just 3 kilometers or 2 miles or something like that. So just or maybe 5. It doesn't matter, but it was pretty close. So in 10 or 15 minutes, we got there, and this is, I think it's the very end of the golden hour. It's about 1 hour after the sunset, maybe even more. I think the light started to be a little bit more harsh, and so usually if the mist wasn't there, it would be too hard, the lights. So I think definitely without the mist, the photo wouldn't be as impressive. It's important to say. I always say, not always. Last year I started to say, and since then I say it in each of my workshop, that if I would have to quantify what makes a good photo, I would say 10 to 20% is the technical side of it. What camera do you use? How are you able handle it? What lens do you use? And each how about shutter speed or whatever, all those technical parameters. I would say 10 to 20%. 30 to 40% would be the composition, definitely more than technical, but still at least 50 or 60% will be the conditions, the atmosphere, because we're still very much dependent on the sun, where it is, and how hard the light is, and so on. And if you get these kind of conditions, of course, it has to be all there. If you cannot use your camera, the conditions can be as best as they can, but you wouldn't have the nice picture, because it would be out of focus or whatever. So of course it has to all be there, but the conditions are very, very important, and without the mist, the photo wouldn't really be. I wouldn't care about it. It would just ended up on my hard drive, and that would be all, or I would even delete it. And what was a nice surprise, number 2, was that boat. It's actually a ferry, and it wasn't my intention to capture it in one shot with the castle. I thought I would avoid it, but in the end I decided to leave it there. And today I would say, without it will be nice photo, but it would lost 50% of its atmosphere. It's very much about the communication between those two objects, and I would emphasize the diagonal communication. There's a diagonal sort of a placing of those objectives, which is quite important. It's good not to have, if you have 2 objects which should sort of communicate with each other, it's good not to have them in one line, horizontally or vertically. It's better to have a diagonal way, how to say it.
Communication,
yeah. So there's a sort of a communication, and now it's there's a story. So suddenly the photo gets some kind of a story, and I like it.
About what you were saying, it's always about right time, right place. Yeah,
being
definitely really in the right place, in the right time. But as you mentioned, without the knowledge, without the proper equipment, without knowing how to use your equipment, you could be on the right time, in the right place, but you would not take the picture. So you need to have them all, as Marek just mentioned.
Exactly. And I think this is the last one, actually. So this is Slovakia again, Sulovské vrchy it's called, and very, very interesting area. Slovakia is much more dramatic landscape than Czech Republic. It used to be together Czechoslovakia, and it's quite a long time ago. and interesting is that we got a lot in common, yet a lot so interesting differences in mentality or whatever, but especially landscape wise. When you see the landscape, Czech, as I said, Czech landscape is quite mild, sort of flat, and Slovakia is very mountain country, a lot of mountains, a lot of different mountains.
Higher mountains.
High mountains, definitely, and like more dramatic scenes like this. A lot of rocks and the kind of shapes. As I said, Czech Republic is much about sandstone, which is quite oblong and so on. But Slovakia is much more. I don't know if maybe it's. I think it's called. It's kind of a granite stone and chalk. Yeah, I think it's chalk. Yeah, like Alps or whatever.
Or maybe a limestone. Is it limestone in English expression? I don't know. The white stones, basically.
I'm not sure really. Yeah. But granite and I think it's chalk, like what we would use for writing on the table. So yeah, different kind of geology, and yeah. So a lot of bears, a lot of bears. That was something I was a little bit afraid, because in Czech Republic there's maybe one bear who came from Slovakia, and
in zoological garden.
yeah, perhaps. And in Slovakia there's quite a lot of them. So we're not used to be careful. We go to forests anywhere. We don't have any predators basically in our nature, or any dangerous one to a human anyway. So we just stray through forest like we don't care. And suddenly when you're in Slovakia, it's a little bit different story. So, but we didn't encounter any anyway. But yeah, I like this picture because it gives it's right it's close to the border. You just cross the border, and a few kilometers away you're there, and it gives you a really very, very different landscape, very different atmosphere and so on. So I like this kind of a change that happened when it's close to South Moravia. This place is actually quite close to this, not really close, but not far away. So it's impressive how the landscape changes, and you can see some of those border mountains from those fields there. So it's interesting how the landscape dramatically changes.
Absolutely.
And this is the very last one, and it's the really east part of Slovakia. It's actually Poland. To be honest, those mountains are Slovakia, but it's taken from Poland side. So we're really getting international now. So it's called Osturnia, and it's not one of my favorites or anything. Kind of a not really boring, but not that much interesting photo. But anyway, I wanted to cover at least something from Slovakia. I've been there for photography just 2 times actually, so I don't have many photos from there, but I definitely want to go there. Especially this area is very, very nice. The Belianské Tatry is called, and it's the border between Slovakia and Poland, and it offers a lot of very interesting views. So yeah, it's one of places I definitely want to return to.
So it's basically the area of High Tatras, right?
These are High Tatras.
Only from the Poland side.
The eastern part of High Tatras.
Yeah, I love High Tatras. I've been there like many times, but just walking around. But I love it. It's an amazing place. Okay, Marek, one question which I have, because I forgot to ask you. I mean, we know all about the lenses which you use. I mean, you used to use 740, now you use 825, mostly for landscape photography, also for architecture. We also know that you are using 42, 150, 2.8, even for these special, let's say, narrow angle landscape images. But I forgot to ask you about the camera. I know you are using OM1, but I'm not even sure if you are using OM1 first one or second generation Mark II. Which
Now
one do
it's
you
the
have?
second generation. I had OM1, and as soon as OM1 Mark II was introduced, I switched to OM1 Mark
So you
II.
have the second version. In that case, let me ask you one more thing, because the OM1 Mark II, not only has live ND, it also has built-in graduation and GND filter for landscape. I mean, at least for me, when I'm using OM1 Mark II as an amateur landscape photographer, I love GND filter because it really gives me the option to, let's say, make the upper part slightly darker, and to change from GND 2, 4, 8, and so on. So there's several options of basically using this filter. But we know, I know that we talked just a couple of minutes ago about you using exposure bracketing, which basically solves this problem, right? So are you using live GND sometimes, or you are using the exposure bracketing all the time?
Just to correct you, not the exposure bracketing, but manually.
Oh yeah,
Changing
sorry, yeah,
the shutter speed.
yeah.
But anyway, it's the same. And no, I don't use graduated live ND filter. And the reason is because I would have to choose between GND and high-res shot. It's
Right,
gonna be combined. It's the only reason. It's an amazing feature. I tested it, and it really acts incredibly. It's just like a live ND filter. You wouldn't really see there's nothing that would give away that it's software made, that it's not actually a glass filter. There's nothing you would recognize it. So it's a very well made function. But the thing is, when I use live ND filter for the water, I would really use it just for the water. As I said, most of the picture I would make two photos, one high-res shot and one live ND filter, and only in water I would manually mask the live ND filter shot to the high-res shot. Right. So I would have the resolution and details as well as the water the way I wanted it, but with GND, with graduated ND filter, it affects all the shot. You cannot just take part of it. So that's the only reason I didn't work with it. But if you don't care that much about high-res shot function, I think the GND, live GND filter, or even classic glass graduated ND filter is a good choice. I think it's a nice way to work with high dynamic range without making exposure bracketing and so you can have the picture on spot. Really, you don't have to blend it or whatever. It has some specifics when there would be a tree or some tall mountain or something like that going to the sky. It would get darker as well, and it would give away that the GND filter was used. So you'd have to work with it. But if the horizon is kind of a flat, there's no problem. So I would recommend it to anyone who really doesn't care that much about high-res shot. It's a nice choice to instead. It's a nice, I would say, nice alternative to HDR. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I've used it several times for sundown, for sunset, and it just works so well. So I mean, it's really for me as a, let's say, non-professional. I'm not using high-res shot for landscape like every single time. The other way around, I use it from time to time, but most of the time I use regular single shots. But I'm not professional as you are. But really, for me, it's really a very helpful function. Okay, Mark, I think this is your last slide, and let me just check the questions. But I think we have covered them all. And we have also covered 2 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, this was a long presentation. On one hand, sorry for that. On the other hand, I am very happy that Marek is really shooting such beautiful images, and he has so much to say about them. So if you didn't had a let's say possibility to catch us from the very early beginning of this YouTube live stream, it will stay on YouTube forever. So basically, you can replay it anytime. And Marek, thank you so much again. Thank you for showing us all these wonderful landscapes, landscape shots, for showing us the way you are shooting as you are shooting high-res shot, combining it all together. And really, thank you so much. Thanks again.
Thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure.
Okay, I hope to see you sometime in the future. And I just read that brilliant capture angle of the sun and shadow. Love your work from Gil, and David is saying Marek's work is amazing. David, I totally agree, 100%. Thank you for bringing.
Thank you so much.
Marek, thank you again. We are really amazing, and your images are too. Just last but not least, let me just point out Marek's Instagram, because I showed you his webpage previously, but also he's using an Instagram. So it's instagram.com/MarkusNakus, and you will see many of his other images, not only those that you have seen today, on his Instagram. Or just go and visit Marek's webpage, which was markusnakus.cz. You can just see it down there right now. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much again for watching, and I hope to see you soon sometime with yet another YouTube Ambassador Talk. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye, Marek.